Wizards of Waverly Place.
Yes.
That was your show.
Yeah.
And now we're going Wizards Beyond Waverly Place.
Yes.
How did that come about? I'm interested.
You know, my so I grew up on the show Wizards of Waverly Place, right? Which was probably one of Disney Channel's most successful shows they ever had. It was I think still the only sitcom that's ever won Emmys for them. And it really launched my career and got me to a really good place. And, you know, I was a teenager at the time. And then after that, just life changed. I had a bit of an existential crisis, a new path emerged.
Stop right there, though. So you're on this hit show on Disney.
Yeah.
What is life like for you? So you're filming, you're going out, you want to go get a cup of coffee. You're getting swarmed by teenagers, by fans of the show. Like, what's that whole experience like? Selena Gomez is on the show. She's a rocket ship herself. Like, what's that whole experience like?
You know, it's looking back on it, it does feel like a different time. It literally was a different time, but this was right before streaming kind of hit the market and social media. This was right before all that. Twitter had just come out. So this was a time where Disney Channel and celebrity was much bigger and different than it is now. It was probably the last moment of a more traditional form of celebrity and actor, and especially in the context of Disney and Disney Channel. So it was at its height. Like everywhere I'd go all over the world, even still to this day, I'm meeting lots of people, and lots of people are coming up taking pictures, and it's a different world. I talk about that with our current cast on the reboot that I'm producing right now and acting in. They're like, what's it going to be like when the show comes out? And I'm like, you know, it's just different. It's a different time. You know, thanks be to God, it was massively successful. In fact, we set the record for Disney Channel for their highest premiere on Disney Plus ever. So it's a massive hit for them. But times are different, you know. Kids are on YouTube. Kids are following social media influencers. They're the new celebrity, you know, traditional actors and celebrities. It's just different. So yeah, the kids on our new show, they're definitely going to get recognized places, and they're definitely going to have their moment. But it's not like it was then. Then it was just a different time, you know.
Yeah, you notice the level of accessibility to people is totally different than it was back in like the 90s, early 2000s, where it was all like Us Weekly or People Magazine, or they would have shows on television just dedicated to tracking what, you know, celebrities were doing. But
yes,
yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me how now you're kind of on the other side of that celebrity, coaching some of the younger up and comers. And what are you telling them? Do you give them any advice on how to handle it or things to think about? Like what are those conversations like?
We talk about it a lot. Like so this new show, basically, I'm the dad. I have a wife. We have children. We love our family, and I was partially responsible with casting the next generation of kid actors who are going to come up to be the next big things, right? And I tell them a lot of lessons I wish that I learned when I was their age. For instance, right now we're in between season 1, season 2, right? And we're waiting on a season 2 order. And for an actor, that's a big deal. That's like, I'm trying to think of a comparison in another business sector, but it's, you don't necessarily know you're getting a second season. So every season you make a show, you don't know if you're getting picked up. You never really know. So you're kind of every season fighting for your life, and it might be over, you know? And when I was younger, that was really stressful. And I thought, if my show didn't get picked up, something's wrong with me. Like I didn't do a good enough job, or I feel like a failure, you know? So right now we're in that same moment, and I'm looking at these kids and I'm like, I want to tell them things that I wish that I heard. So I talk to them all the time about where value and identity and what's important. So I tell the kids, like, hey, if you're feeling stressed about this, just know that this is not where your value resides based on a season 2, based on approval from others. And if you are feeling stressed about this, then let that be a pause for reflection, because you need to think about what is really important to me. And ultimately that comes from your relationship with God. And, you know, for me personally, that's exactly where it comes from. I know no matter what, something comes, something goes, that doesn't bother me anymore, because I go, you know what, as long as my relationship with him is okay and I'm there, I'm secure. And
you use that word identity, which I think is such a powerful word. And when you're young, you're a child, and you go through sort of the traditional elementary school and high school, struggling with your identity is, what everybody goes through. You're going through puberty. Who am I? What do I value? What do I like? What do I dislike? When you're a child actor and you grow up on set and you are famous in the public eye from a very early age, a lot of that identity is in some ways sort of taken from you and imposed upon you from the outside in. And I'm curious, did you experience that as you were kind of coming up as a child actor? And maybe you can talk a little bit about, I think, sort of the stigmas of being a child actor in Hollywood and the challenges, because a lot of them end up on drugs and kind of go through some really difficult times.
Totally. Yeah, as an actor especially, your job is to be something you're not. So when you're trying to find your identity and build some foundation by which you can stand on, it's kind of a direct conflict with what you're doing. So doing that as a teenager, as a young person, it's tough. There's a lot of turmoil there. And your business is inherently built, as an actor at least, is inherently built on approval of others and what other people think. So your self-esteem, it's just the nature of the beast, is based on what other people think. And like your identity is only worth something if other people are going, good job, you're getting the job. Yes, you got the second season, all of that.
It reminds me of that, IMDb, when you go and you see the star meter.
Yes.
Is the star meter going up or is it going down? And
that's where you're at in your life. That's where you're at in your career.
Being concerned about how you're valued in the overall system.
Yeah. I was there as a kid actor. If it wasn't a better score, I was like, oh no, my career is failing. It's like, no, like I try to tell the kids and I try to tell the parents on our show and any other kids that I meet all over the world, like your value will never be linked to other people's eyes. It has to be based on something more internal. You need to find a confidence in yourself that's independent of what other people think.
So how did you get into acting? And when did you start?
I was young, and my parents probably gave me the best shot possible at having like a healthy upbringing. That didn't involve later turning to drugs or turning to substance abuse issues or any of that, because my parents treated me like you treat a kid in a sport. They were very supportive. They didn't need me. They didn't need my money. They didn't need any of that. It was
weren't
like
living vicariously through you.
No, in fact, it was almost the opposite. My dad would be like, second you're done with this thing, we're out of LA, dude. I want to get back to Arizona and like back to normal life. Like the second you're done, let's get out of here.
That is very much your dad.
Very my dad. So I tell that to a lot of parents too, as I go, hey, like if you're like quitting your job, if you're like changing your life, if you're sacrificing this much for your kid, be very cautious of that, because that could create an undue pressure on a child where his psychology, what he's built for, is not to be in these high pressure, high stakes situations. Kids are meant to be wild and free and learning through interaction. They're not meant to be with lawyers and agents and managers and under the spotlight and all these things. So it's like, if your kid doesn't like it like a sport, which is how I liked it, like theater, it was fun for me. Like I loved performing. Then you got to question your motives. So I'm always cautioning parents, like, you shouldn't take any of your kids' money. And if you need to, that's going to create a big problem, because that kid's going to get older. He's going to want to know where it went. It's an awkward dynamic.
And how common is that?
Very common. Very common. Yeah, a lot of these families are leaving a situation or breaking a situation to get to LA. They need the kid to work. The kid's paying for the apartment. And
that's tough.
The mom's going, we need this, like.
And now you're the breadwinner.
And now you're the breadwinner. You're a kid. That's a very terrible dynamic. Of course, kids are going to end up on drugs later in life. They had no childhood.
Yeah.
They had this terribly pressure-filled situation that can only express itself in substance abuse later on, or some sort of abuse later on. The kid was stunted, literally. Like, I met so many actors in their 40s. I'm like, you're still kids inside. Like you never grew up. So I was fortunate enough to have that proper parental dynamic where I always felt like my dad's kid and my mom. I was never the breadwinner. So I tell parents that all the time. It's like, if you want to get your kid into acting, like, you stay the parent. Now, this is a sport.
The dynamic on Wizards, it seemed like the cast was super close. Did you find in that support structure, a lot of help in kind of navigating through the celebrity of being on that show?
Yes. And all of us, we did feel like family. And I think a lot of the people on set did a good job of making us feel like kids while we were acting. Because it's a fine line. On one hand, you need to make your day. Like there's a certain professionalism you have to have because lots of money is being spent and you need to get what you need to get. But on the other hand, they are kids. We are young people and they need to be treated a certain way. So let them laugh a little bit, let them have fun, let them goof off for a couple seconds. Like it's a fine line with your producers and directors and people who are on set working with children.
Sure.
And they actually did a great job with that. And we had a familial culture, and I was the oldest on the show. And I really embraced that role of like big brother. And I came from a big Italian family. So to me, I was always like just trying to put everyone under my wings and, have that familial atmosphere. And I think we had that. And it was part of the reason the show was such a success.